Hello, friends. Welcome to the show. On this episode of the podcast, we have May and Andrea from Save Our Street Dogs, or SOSD for short. They are an animal welfare organization that looks after the welfare of the street dogs right here in Singapore. And if you haven't already realized, there are many of them. As a dog lover myself, I was incredibly moved by all the good that they were doing for these dogs, and I feel that we should spread awareness about SOSD and other organizations alike so that the public can reach out and help them out, especially during these tough times of the coronavirus. Also, if you enjoy what you're listening to on this podcast and want me to continue doing what I do, please introduce my podcast to your friends and family members or help me click that follow button on the Spotify page. Alright, I think that's it for the introduction. So please give a very warm welcome to May and Andrea from SOSD. Five, four, three, two, one. Boom! Alright, thanks May and Andrea for coming down. I was really looking forward to doing this. You guys just need to keep like a fist distance away from the microphone when you're speaking, and then you're good.
Okay.
Yep. So before we get started, why don't you just bring us through what SOSD does and what you do for SOSD?
So, what SOSD does is that we are actually a animal welfare organization that speaks up for stray animals, especially stray dogs. Obviously, we focus SOSD. We started off with Save Our Street Dogs. That's what we were called at first, before we actually shortened it to an acronym. So we try our best to improve the relationship between human beings as well as the stray dogs in Singapore, and to let people know a little bit more about how to manage the stray population in Singapore. Something like that. And we do rescue work, of course, as well. So what I do in outreach primarily is outreach and education. So I started outreach in about the year 2013. So that was when I decided to start this branch and go to schools to give talks and just to spread awareness and to let the younger generation know a little bit more about what SOSD is about, and also just to be a little bit more tolerant of our street dogs.
For myself, and I'm with the donations team. As a charity organization, we rely 100% on public's donation to survive. So there is no government support in that sense. So, but all the money that comes in, we have to be very transparent. And being an IPC status organization means donors, you can ask for tax rebate. So aside from that, I'm also with the outreach team. That's why I'm here today. Okay.
Yeah, so you're outreaching over here. Yeah, so let's touch on the point about what Singapore is trying to do to, mitigate the number of stray dogs that are on the streets. And I was doing some research, and then there is this TNR program that is going on, right, which stands for, you correct me if I'm wrong, Trap, Neuter and Release. So
And rehome.
And rehome, okay.
And management.
So and management, TNRM. I see. Okay. So as SOSD, do you guys do the entire process from TNR to M, or do you just focus on certain areas?
So different AWGs, we will focus on different areas in Singapore. So when a complaint is raised, we'll actually, the first question we'll ask is, which area is it? So then we can direct you to the correct AWG. The AWG that is involved here will actually go ahead and, trap, neuter, release, and eventually the management of it is the most important thing, because we release them back for those who are whom we deem that, they might be better out there, right? So then we will release them, and then we have to manage them in the sense that we manage the humans around that dog as well, and also anything with regards to that dog.
How do you guys decide if a dog is suitable for rehoming or releasing back into the environment?
Well, it actually depends on the dog. And with the rescue dogs, say on Singapore Island per se, the rescue dogs, if it's a friendly dogs and is can walk with human, interact with human, fine. Okay. Then the next thing is this dog leash trainable? That means, can you put a leash on him, and if you're going to rehome him, he's better be able to be leashed and friendly. So if he is, then bingo, he is definitely much more prone to be brought into a household. So given that, we will try to bring him into the shelter. For SOS, every animal welfare group has different protocols. Okay, so for SOST per se, the dog will come into our quarantine unit, quarantine for 2 weeks. We'll make sure that he doesn't...
At least like COVID-19 quarantine, but for pets.
Correct. Yes.
Because they do also, like, we have COVID, right? They also have something like called distemper, for example, sometimes parvovirus. So things that are like, that will only affect dogs or like via human when we walk from one enclosure to another. So those are things that we quarantine them for.
So once they pass quarantine, then they are ready for an adoption. Then, those dogs will be adopted. But some dogs are just better out there. They are not as interactive with human, and that they survive better, then they probably will go back into the wild.
I think because that's what they were born into and that's what they are more used to, right? Yeah, for example.
The feral kind.
Yeah, the feral kind. Because why I wanted to bring you two on is because increasingly I see amongst my age group, and when we start to get our own houses or when we move out from living with our parents, many of my friends want to get dogs, but a lot of them do not consider adopting a dog. A lot of them are talking about getting a dog from a breeder. So don't get this twisted. This podcast is not to say that it's bad to get a dog from a breeder. It's just that I think we need to shed more light on these dogs that are not really looked at, right? We always focus on dogs from breeders, but we don't focus on dogs living in the shelters. And I think it's safe to say that all dogs' lives are equal lah. So it's the same as like humans. Some of us are born into more fortunate circumstances. Some of us are born into less fortunate. So same thing here. This podcast is to just focus on the less fortunate dogs out there, and
and be less dog racist.
Yes, I think once we see a feral dog, then we go like, that is like a dirty dog. Yeah, dog racist, I understand. So for people that have concerns over adopting a dog, I think the main concerns would be, these dogs are, psychologically scarred, so they might tend to be more aggressive, or they might, as you already said, carry some kind of disease, or they have some kind of disability that people are afraid that they would have to take on once they adopt a dog. What do you have to say to these people?
I guess it's the same for all different breeds. Yeah, your little Chihuahuas and your little Shih Tzus may also get. I mean, if you get them from a breeder, they are also exposed to like distemper, parvovirus.
And they do get old too. When they get old, they are being pedigree breeds. They are more prone to certain illnesses. Like for example, the sausage dog with really long spine. Okay, they are very prone to the spinal issues. And some dogs with the nose back in, like the pup. They have got eye issues, they got nasal breathing issues, and all that. When they are old, it's going to be old age problem.
Yeah, so like myself, I have 5 dogs. 2 of them are mongrels and 3 of them are pedigree dogs. And I do have a pug as well. My first dog, who has already passed on, was a Shih Tzu. So I do know a range of everything, from, it's very cute to have a Shih Tzu when it was 2 months old and da-da-da-da. So eventually, how are you going to bring the dog all the way, right? It is not a breed issue. It is the human. Whether you want, all dogs eventually, they will come to the stage, right? Whereby they will become weak. They will have more issues. So it's not a size thing or like no psychologically damaged. We have a lot of shelter dogs. They are so sweet. They're so sweet that the moment you see them, you just want to bring them home.
It's very much like if you go shopping, right? You buy a piece of dress. Oh, this dress is brand new off the rack. It's new. It's in packaging. Wow, new. The idea of new versus something that has been passed on.
But I think that's one of the points that we're trying to drive at. Is not to see dogs as just objects, right? Right, because they are like us, they're like human beings, right? So we still do, I think not just Singapore, I think worldwide, everybody still sees dogs in that sense. So animals in general. So if we back to the point where you were saying, when you see a dog or you see a puppy at the shelter, you want to bring them home immediately. During this COVID-19 crisis, where you do not have that physical interaction between the people visiting your shelter, to having volunteers come down, work for you guys, because now volunteers can't come down to volunteer, so you guys are I think, functioning based on the full-time roles that you guys have, I would imagine, right?
Yes, very restricted number of volunteers. Like each time pack walk, used to have like 20 over people that can walk the dogs, five or six.
Yeah, so because you don't have this kind of physical interaction, I would imagine this period is a pretty tough time for you guys from having lesser dogs being adopted. That means you guys need to feed these dogs for a longer period of time. That will put strain on your finances as well. And then donations, I would imagine, have dropped as well. So what do you think Singaporeans can do if they can't physically go down and help? What can they do to help out people like you guys?
Well, donations definitely. Yes, send me the money. We need the money. Okay. Yes. Aside from the best are the recurring donations. If you can pledge something like on a monthly basis, like a $10 a month. And it's not much to you. Maybe it's just $10 a month, 2 McDonald's meals. That will give us a recurring security that we have this fund coming in every month. That would be our basis to work on our budgeting actually. So it does help a lot to know that there is a sum of money that is constantly coming in instead of sporadic donations. Yeah.
So now everything has been turned online. So I still do outreach to schools, but it's really just Zoom.
Yeah, and you lose that physical connection, whereas the kids can't play with the dogs, they can't see the dogs, right? I think this period has really opened our eyes as to how important sitting around at a table talking like this is, right?
Yeah, because it's the interaction of having the kids to touch the dog that will actually break through a lot of barriers, and it makes it much more memorable for the kid to bring home the idea that, hey, that is also a living thing, or shelter dogs or like Singapore specials, they are not that scary.
When we bring dogs to schools, most kids have never actually seen a big dog. It's like, oh my goodness, these dogs are huge. Oh, so big. My mom say cannot touch. They are dangerous and they will bite. So by bringing them to the dogs to the schools, the kids get to feel, touch the dogs and like, hey, they are not too bad after all. So that leaves a very strong impression.
I think like this notion that, as a kid, I was also told because I was very, very small size, so if you see a big dog, right, the parents will just err on the side of caution and say, in case that dog is one that is aggressive, right, don't go near a big dog.
That is the smart thing to do.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Which is the right thing to do. But I think if you guys can make a safe environment around the kids to make them realize that, actually not all big dogs are bad. So when these kids grow up in the future, right, then it helps the cause, right? Because now these kids go out and say, actually, I want to keep a big dog. I want to adopt a dog because I had this and this experience when I was a kid. And I think it's like a movement which you have to start when a kid is young, so that when they grow up, like me now, once I move out of my house, I'm definitely getting a dog But that's because maybe when I was a kid, I had positive experiences with dogs such as this. Yeah.
The thing that I noticed after doing outreach for so many years is that the very, very young ones, the kindergarten kids, right? So sometimes we will bring about probably 2 dogs, 3 dogs down to their area. And we do have one extremely awesome dog. His name is called Flubby. He is adopted. However, he is black. He's largely black. And then you will see the kids actually flocking to the brown ones. And then after dwelling into it for a while, I realized the reason behind it. Because they watch cartoons. And cartoons always feature the big black ones as the bad ones. Yeah. Yeah, correct. So what I always do is that I actually address it in that session with the kids straight away. So I'll ask them the question, do you think that this dog here, because he's black, he is bad? And then at first they will tell me yes. And then after that, I'll take the opportunity to showcase the things that Flubby can do. Flubby can do a lot of tricks. And Flubby is a very, very well-balanced dog. Right? Of course, he has some issues here and there, but it's almost next to none. And then that's when he breaks through that barrier and more kids are more willing to come forward and, interact with him. And then they actually bring home good memories.
How is Flubby now? Is he adopted already? Or?
He has always been adopted.
Oh, okay.
For the dogs that we bring to outreach sessions in schools and our corporate, they are largely adopted dogs and they are trained and they are comfortable with human beings. And so some are more comfortable with children, some are more comfortable with seniors and different environment.
Yeah, it's to show them that this is the type of dog you could have, right? He's adopted, but look at him, he's perfectly fine. In fact,
And they do give back to society. That's the key idea that I want to show people, These dogs are not just victims of society and waiting for us to like, oh, you're so poor thing, let me bring you home. They actually can give back to
I
society.
think it's like almost all dogs. Dogs, they don't see any prejudices. They have this kind of fears that probably something has happened to them or yeah, this is same like humans lah.
It's like human, right? If you have been scared of the dark when you are young, when you grow up, you'll definitely have this subconsciousness about darkness and dark spaces. So given the dogs, if when they were young and they were like living in a space that they have heard thunderstorms and it was a bad experience, so very naturally when they grow up they might be more scared of the thunder.
Yeah. What kind of programs? I know you guys have different programs under SOSD, but just bring us through the main ones that you guys are focusing on and are like your key programs, because I know you have a Jurong Island project.
Oh, Jurong Island. Jurong Island is a trap noter release project. It's a joint project with ACRES. ACRES. Pardon my pronunciation. ACRES and Noah's Ark Care. So, it started because of the strays on Jurong Island. Traditionally, what happened with strays on Jurong Island is they will be caught in. They will call the government authorities and trappers will go in there, commercial trappers will go in there and catch the dogs and put the dogs down. So we thought maybe there should be a better way of doing it. So this joint effort, we went in, the 3 organizations, and we started a shelter, and the dogs were being put at the shelters, and for the successful, more rehomable ones, they will be sent out to the mainland. So Noah's Ark Care send some, we bring out some, they bring out some to digest the population there. And at the same time, we do trap noter, trapping them and sterilizing them. Okay. So now there are 2 sites there, and there are more than 250 dogs there. The population is just growing. So feeding the dogs there is a weight, a burden. On top of that is also the human volunteers and human staff that is attending to it. Dogs have to eat every day, just like humans. So there is no such thing as Sunday, no work, so we don't go in. And so we will have staff there all year round. And given Jurong Island is a very sensitive area, no, even for us to go in, we need to apply a pass 2 weeks in advance. Yeah, before we can go in. So we need full-time staff that can go in every day to tend to the needs of those.
So the main goal for the Jurong Island project is to the dogs that are there now, take care of them, but we want to ultimately reduce the number of dogs on the island, right?
Yes, through neutering is a better control than to trapping and killing. Yes, because actually in trapping and killing, you actually kill the more docile and the more harmless dogs, whereas the more ferocious, the smartest one, the feral ones, they will never get caught. There are some old grandmother dogs there that they are still trying to catch.
They don't fall for any of your tricks lah.
No, and trapping dogs they are real smart. It's a one-time do it or lost it. If we had set up a trap, if it's not successful, that's it. It's very difficult to. So sometimes in Singapore mainland per se, if our trapping team set up a trap and then it was sabotaged by some members of the public, and then that's it. The opportunity of trapping that dog is gone.
Yeah, I watched the Channel News Asia short series about how they trap the dog. So if they set up a trap, they have to actually feed the dogs in the traps for like a week or 2 and then build that trust between the dog. But once you trap one dog and the rest of the dogs outside see, right, they will never fall for the same trick again. So you got to retrain them, hopefully that they fall for the same trick. But as you were saying, there are some grandmother dogs out there that just don't ever fall for these tricks lah. Right? So it takes up a whole lot of human capital, a lot of resources to do this.
Like I was a stray feeder, before SOSD, so about 2009, 2010, I was a stray feeder for like a good 3 years. So then there was this dog that we were all trying to, trap. We wanted to like sterilize her, and we took.
She was like most wanted.
Yeah. So we took about 2 years to try to get her. Eventually, we had to drop her, and we gave her like what is almost at the limit of what she is allowed to take, and we had to wait for 4 hours for her to fall asleep. So we were just staring into space, waiting for 4 hours for her to fall asleep before we can actually take her. And when we finally got to her, we all cried because there's a lot of effort and time.
For one dog, and then there are thousands of dogs out there in Singapore, right? Yeah, if you have to spend so many hours just to catch one dog, how are we gonna try to control the population in Singapore? Because if you are listening to this and you think this doesn't affect you, right? Actually, it really does, because we all live in a society, right? So if you see there are stray dogs out there, ultimately, I think as a society, if you want to get a dog, we should all try and control the problem together. We can't just rely on organizations like SOSD or whatever.
But
that's what a lot of people think. They just rely on you and then they don't want to give out help.
They think that we have no jobs and we just sit in the
let's go through that. Yeah, so actually both of you are actually not working on this full time, right? You guys are actually teachers. That's what I learned about before this.
I'm a full-time teacher. I was actually teaching in a secondary school back then, and then I decided to quit so that I'm still teaching. It's just that it's another arrangement so that I can go to schools in the day to reach out to people. I am not paid in SOSD at all, but I do work on it like as though it's another part-time job. So I have a full-time job and a part-time job, and then because of my 5 dogs, I am kind of another like a parent as well. So yeah, it's very stretched.
So for those listening out there that want to help SOSD, and in the future when they listen to this podcast and they want to help during this coronavirus period, or even after this coronavirus period passes, how can they reach out to you guys and help out?
Our website has got emails, right? Email addresses for each of our like department. Yeah, different teams, back end or like at the forefront. So if you want to help us to foster, or you want to help us to by adopting.
Yeah, the adopting and the fostering will go to rehoming@sosd.org.sg.
So everything is on the website.
Yeah, so you can follow them on Instagram. I think that's one of the easiest ways, and then you can go to their website, right? Yeah, nowadays Instagram is like a big way to reach.
We do have back end team as well. So we have got team social media. So I am part of it as well. So I do write posts and all this for SOSD. So then it doesn't mean that I have to be there physically. I'm scared of the dog, or I'm a Muslim. I can't touch the dog, but I want to help. I do have a lot of my own students back then. They're like, let's go. I'm like, but you're Muslim, you can't touch the dog. And they're like, okay, never mind. I'll just stand outside, So there's a lot of things for you to do as well. You can do back-end work. Or if you're really good in photography.
A lot of ways that you can contribute lah.
This is an organization. There is a lot of paperwork. I'm dealing with Excel spreadsheets and mailers and emails. And then when things come in, we need packaging. We really need physical manpower to sit there like a production line to pack things in times of fundraising projects.
Yep. Seems like a lot of work needs to get done, and you guys could use more help.
Yes.
Okay, I think we touched on quite a lot of stuff lah. And I think hopefully Singaporeans will slowly move towards, considering adopting, and if they want to, they can foster dogs as well. Yeah, but fostering, I would imagine, requires a little extra, because you know that you're taking care of this dog and one day you might have to give it out after.
But there are a lot of foster fails, and eventually anyway. We welcome and we love foster fails.
You might just start off as a fosterer and then become just adopter, right? You just keep the dog.
Yeah. Because when it's time for the dog to go, you will go, no! And then, yeah.
Maybe I should start doing fostering, then I can tell my parents not to give up the dog.
Yeah. Actually, a lot of us are foster fails. And every time we do that, we're like, haha, you suck. But yeah,
you fell into the trap.
Well, but given fosterers, there's also certain requirements lah. Given if your role is a fosterer, you cannot spoil the dog. You cannot let the dog jump on your bed and jump on the table to eat. You have to be aware that they are going to a family eventually, so you don't instill bad habits. You try to teach the dog good habits and the right things.
I mean, unless you're the adopter lah, right?
Then after that, you become the adopter. Okay, you want to let the dog sleep with you, lick you, go into the toilet with you and watch you bathe. It's perfectly fine.
Okay, I think we touched on a lot of stuff. I think we're about half an hour in. I think that's good. I think we learned a lot, and hopefully if you're listening, visit their Instagram, visit their websites, and help out in any way you can. Yeah, thanks for coming on to the show. No problem. Thank you.